gon' talk about it. Let's talk about it. Get in here, we in here tonight. So get in here, we in here to vibe.
Hey, everybody. Let me know if you can hear my voice. Let me know if you can hear me. Thumbs up in the chat down below if you can hear my voice. Good day, good day, good day, good midday. It's 2 o'clock. Good midday. Okay, I see yes, yes, yes. Is that yes, you guys can hear me? Okay. Y'all hit that thumbs up button. Y'all come on in here. Come on in here. Come on in here. I have been looking for an update and I don't see one. Y'all come on in here. Let's have a conversation. Y'all share this live for me, please, and thank you. Let me go ahead and put my disclaimer up. Basically, it says that things that come out of my mouth is based on my opinion only, y'all, okay? I'm definitely not trying to defame nobody's character. Let me just pull it up again while we on here. Hold on. Let me just have it up anyway, just in case, because it's 2 o'clock. And they got into 5. They got into 5 o'clock, y'all. 5 o'clock in the morning. What you gonna do outside in the club? Hold on, Cordesia. Cordesia Johnson. She said, I don't think that we may hear something later today. Well, what do you say? I do think that we may hear something later today. We might. I'm just checking. But y'all know I've been talking to my little boyfriend, ChatGPT. And of course, you know, I be having extensive conversations. She said, sis, did you monetize? Yes, I did. And I also have a goal set. And I also have my coffee link pinned above. Okay, my coffee link is pinned above. If you guys want to bless your girl with a coffee for this midday live stream, it would be greatly appreciated. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, yes, so I don't see anything updated as of right now. All right, so she said it's 3 o'clock in Chicago right now. Oh, it's 3 in Chicago? Oh, is it? Oh, wait a minute. You guys are an hour ahead of us? So we got 3 o'clock in Chicago. Okay. So we haven't heard anything yet. I've been checking the site because I just kind of want to know. But because I've been doing some research with my ChatGPT, I want to cover all angles. Y'all know how it is, right? I want to make sure because you remember last night when I went over this, we talked about, you know, different scenarios, right? We talked about the likelihood, right, that it could be that the appellate court and the not likelihood. And ChatGPT came back and said the most likelihood would be that they would pause it or they would have her to stay temporarily, right? That's what my ChatGPT said, that they would she said no, it's two in Chicago. Oh, it's 2 in Chicago. Oh, so you guys are on Central? Okay, great. So you guys are on the same time as me. Texas, okay? So anyway, but my ChatGPT said that they will most likely, because of the third judge, remember the dissenting judge, dissenting, I don't know why I said descending, like he's descending from heaven or something, dissenting judge, that they will most likely grant a temporary stay to at least allow the state to apply. That was the last thing. It was, okay, so ChatGPT broke it down and they gave me scenario A, B, and C, or they may have did 1, 2, 3, whichever, however they did it. A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Grateful LYB. Thank you for the 17 months. Lovely. Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't know why that sound familiar. I don't know. Anyway, it seemed like I just saw your name. But anyway, okay, so it's 2 p.m. in Chicago. Okay, thank you for that. So anyway, but we gave 3 different scenarios. Let me go back over them right quick. Hold on. Let's go back over what we went over a little bit. We're not going to go all the way back over, just a little bit. Hit that thumbs up, please. Hit that thumbs up, please. So we're going to do the 3 scenarios. I wonder, could I just copy and paste it? And that's what we do. Hold on. Give me a second. I should have had it up already. This is my fault. This is my fault. I want to go back and get the 3 scenarios that we gave yesterday. How y'all doing while I look for this? How are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? While I look for these 3 scenarios. Here you go, right here. Well, did it give me 3? I see 2 scenarios. I thought it gave me 3. So the 3 scenarios was, I'm drinking coffee in the middle of the day, y'all. Okay, so I think it's when I put in that she has court on Monday, right? So, okay, that's what it says. So, because she already has court scheduled for Monday to go ahead and get out, right? And if they let her out, it's going to be harder for them to get her back in. So, wait a minute. Did somebody send me a coffee? Hold on. Did I get a coffee? Thank you. It just says, oh, you guys didn't put your name. Put your name in the comments. When you tip me on a coffee, put your name in the comments because I want to be able to give credit where credit is due. But it just says, someone just made some loud noise with a $5 tip. Thank you so much, someone, but I don't know your name. If you want to tell me in the chat, I can give you a proper shout out. Okay? So thank you so much. But when you guys send me a coffee, put your name in the comments or whatever so that I will know who you are. So thank you so much for that tip through coffees. Appreciate it, y'all. Coffees is nothing but tips, y'all. It's nothing but tips. All right. It's just like Cash App. Okay. It's just tips. Anyway. All right. So anyway, let's talk, y'all. So because they still, I looked before I came on live, I looked and saw that the appellate court has not updated. That's one. And that the circuit court is still scheduled for Monday. So I said, I asked ChatGPT, what will be the most likely outcome if they already have court set to release her on Monday? And it said that the most likely outcome would be a temporary stay. So we need to talk about that because I know a lot of people are like, don't think that they would grant a stay, but that's not true. That they very well may grant it. And the reason being is because if they don't and allow the state to move forward, then it will be harder for the state to fight this. Okay? So we have to look at it like this. They could say, no, we're upholding they can say, no, we're upholding what we said, right? And you can go to the Supreme Court all you want to. We don't care, right? Which they probably won't, simply because there was a third judge that did not agree with them. Or they can say, yes, for the, they vote for the stay to stay simply because that will stop them from going forward on Monday. Because if the appellate court do not stop this before Monday, she said, is y'all going in circles? What do you mean, Tasha? Is it going in circles? Can you guys hear me? You might have to step out and come back in, Tosh. Damn, I just hit the cup on my tooth. I can't stand doing that. That shit hurt. Is it going round and round and round, you guys? Let me know. Can y'all hear me? Okay, so Tosh, go out and come back in. Go out and come back in. So anyway, they would have to, if they don't grant the stay, then the state kind of loses control of trying to detain Holly, right? So, and I'm saying that because I know the state really want to stop Holly from getting out, okay? I think it's an ego thing, to be honest with you. She said, I'm asking because my screen was frozen. Yeah, go out and come back in, darling. Just go all the way out and come back in. She said, Amor, but it could take a while, right? The Supreme Court is probably busy. I don't think it would take a while. I don't think it would take a while for the Supreme Court to answer whether or not they're going to accept it or not, because that would be the next step. If they, okay, so listen, I'm going to be realistic with you guys. ChatGPT said they're most likely are going to grant a temporary stay, okay, to allow the Supreme Court to say whether or not they are going to accept this case. They said that is the most likely outcome. And the reason being is because they already have court scheduled for Monday. If they do not grant a temporary stay and they move forward to Monday, it's going to be a little difficult with allowing Holly to get out and to bring her back. It's going to be more difficult. They already have her housed now. So most likely the appellate court see how fast this is going. So they're most likely going to issue a temp stay. All right. So I know they got to do it before 5, or what time the courts close? Is it 4 or 5? It's going to have to be before 4 or 5, right? They're going to have to, because I looked at the circuit court schedule and it's still set for Monday at 9 o'clock. Okay. She says she's not going to stay. Well, I'm telling you what ChatGPT told me, that they're most likely going to issue the stay. I'm telling you. And they said that simply because that's the middle ground. If they don't, then then the state is just doomed. The state doomed. The state will have a harder hill to climb. But listen, and I'm not saying this is what I want. I want us to make sure that we are not just, just wishing upon a star, right? We have to also, she said, ChatGPT is AI generated device. I know, I got it. I understand that. But my ChatGPT trained, okay? No, I know ChatGPT could get it wrong, and they probably will, and I hope they do. But I'm just giving y'all what it said. The most likely outcome is a temporary stay. Do I want that? Absolutely not. But let's be realistic here. They may issue a temporary stay, but we need to understand that if they do this, this is not the end of the day, okay? So, do I think they're going to issue a temporary stay? Yes, I think they're going to issue the temporary stay. I think they're going to say, let's do a temporary stay and just let the Supreme Court duke it out. Why? Because 3 judges, 2 said, this is the way we see it, and 1 said, I don't see it that way. So because 3 judges is involved, they may say, all right, state, go ahead and take it up to the Supreme Court and tell me what the Supreme Court gonna say. Even if the Supreme Court accepts it, okay? She said it's not the court's duty to make it easy for the state as well. Courts have to follow the ruling as it, hold on. It's not the court's duty to make it easy for the state as well. Courts have to follow rulings and don't deter just because the state needs time. Yeah, but because this is, I could see if it was set for, if the circuit court ruling was set for maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of next week, they would have time to work with. They don't really have time to work with, you guys. So I could see them saying, let's just hold off for right now. You know what I'm saying? I could see them saying that. But anyway, let me let you hear what ChatGPT said about it. Now, don't get mad at my ChatGPT, you guys, please. But let me let you hear what ChatGPT said about it. All right, hold on. The likely outcome. Hold on, let me, we're going to read this one, then I have another one.
Short answer, yes, it's possible, but not automatic and not unlimited. Let me break this down clearly so you can speak on it with authority. What a stay actually does. A stay temporarily pauses the appellate court's ruling, in this case Holly being released, while the state tries to take the case higher. So if granted, it would keep Holly in custody for now. Can the stay last until the Supreme Court? It can, but only if a court allows it. And courts don't just hand that out easily. Here's the real process. 1, state asks the appellate court for a stay. That's the first stop. The appellate court can say yes or no. 2, if denied, state runs to the Illinois Supreme Court. They can file a petition for leave to appeal, PLA, and a motion for a supervisory stay. 3, the Supreme Court then decides whether to grant a stay while they review, whether to even take the case at all. Here's the key point people miss. A stay is not supposed to be used just to keep someone locked up longer. Courts look at things like, is there a real chance the state will win at the Supreme Court? Will irreparable harm happen if she's released? Does detention still meet the legal standard? In Holly's case, the appellate court already said the state failed to meet its burden. That makes it harder, not impossible, but harder for the state to justify a long stay. Time limits. This matters. A stay is usually temporary and specific. It might last a few days, a couple weeks, or until the Supreme Court makes an initial decision. But it is not open-ended by default. If the Supreme Court denies the appeal, stay is over, she should be released. Does nothing or delays, they must specifically extend the stay. And real talk, your angle for your stream. If the state is pushing for a stay all the way to the Supreme Court, what they're really saying is, open quote, we lost at the appellate level, but we're trying to buy more time to keep her locked up, close quote. And courts are very aware of that tactic. Bottom line, a stay can keep her in jail while the state goes to the Supreme Court, but it must be granted and justified. It is usually temporary, not indefinite. And given the appellate ruling, the state has a steeper hill to climb.
Okay, so that steeper hill to climb is getting it heard by the Supreme Court. Okay, and we're going to talk about that as well. However, so it did say the most likely will be, wait a minute, I didn't even play that part yet. Hold on. That's my second one. Okay, hold on. So that's what a stay is. A stay is just a temporary pause. A temporary pause stops the appellate ruling, okay? So basically, it's them asking the Supreme Court, can you look and see, did the appellate court get it right? Did they get it right, right? And because the appellate court looked and saw, did the circuit court get it right? Then the Supreme Court will look and see, did they get it right? But I'm going to tell you something, because it has to be on a bigger scale. But let me talk to you guys about what they said that the likelihood would be. I'm trying to get to that part. It did tell me that the likelihood would be that they would temporarily grant the stay. Let me get to that. I did. What would be the reason they want to pick it up? But no, that's not it. Okay, let me just rewrite it, because I don't feel like having to look for it. Give me 1 second. Okay, it's coming. I just actually just told it to do it again. All right, here it goes. So it kind of gave me a middle ground of what it will most likely do. Here it goes. Here, let me just ask for a smooth read. Can you do this in a smooth read? They be doing all these hashtags. That's why y'all be hearing that, all them crazy, crazy words. She said, Ari has a right to respond before the appellate court decides. Well, she does, but she hasn't responded yet, right? Which means the appellate court is probably going to decide something today. They have to decide something today. Because if not, then because they have not pushed the court date back yet, you know? Anyway, here we go. Let's listen right quick.
Here's your smooth, read, clean, and ready to go. Let's walk through the possible scenarios so you can understand exactly how this could play out. First, the appellate court could deny the stay altogether. If that happens, Holly would be released and the state could still try to take the case up to the Illinois Supreme Court. But the key point is she would be out while that process plays out. That would be the best case scenario for her. Second, the appellate court could grant a short, temporary stay. This is one of the more common middle ground outcomes. In that situation...
Okay, so did you hear that? I'm going to play it again. It says the most common middle ground outcome is the appellate issue or grant a stay. Okay, I want you guys to brace yourself because it literally says the most common outcome is the appellate court will grant a short temporary stay. That's the most common outcome. Let's play that.
Here's your smooth, read, clean, and ready to go. Let's walk through the possible scenarios so you can understand exactly how this could play out. First, the appellate court could deny the stay altogether. If that happens, Holly would be released and the state could still try to take the case up to the Illinois Supreme Court. But the key point is she would be out while that process plays out. That would be the best case scenario for her. Second, the appellate court could grant a short, temporary stay. This is one of the more common middle ground outcomes. In that situation, Holly would remain in custody for a brief period, usually just a few days up to a couple of weeks, while the state quickly files with the Supreme Court. From there, the higher court would decide whether to step in or not. If they decline, she would be released. If they step in, they could extend the stay. Third, the appellate court could grant a stay pending review by the Supreme Court. That sounds more serious, but it still does not mean she would be held indefinitely. It simply means everything is paused while the higher court decides whether to take the case and what to do next. That process usually plays out over a matter of weeks, unless the Supreme Court actively decides to keep the stay in place longer. Another possibility is that the Supreme Court declines to hear the case altogether. If that happens, any stay in place would be lifted and Holly would be released. In that situation, the appellate court's ruling stands as the final word. There is also a less likely scenario where the Supreme Court agrees to take the case and keeps the stay in place. If that happens, Holly could remain in custody for a longer period while the court reviews the legal issues. That is the most difficult outcome for her, but it requires multiple decisions to go the state's way. And finally, even if Holly is released, that does not necessarily end everything. The state could return to the trial court later and try to argue for different conditions or raise new concerns, depending on how the case develops. When you look at all of these possibilities together, most paths still lead to her being released at some point. The only way she remains detained long-term is if the Supreme Court not only takes the case, but also agrees to keep her in custody while they review it. That is the full landscape of how this could unfold.
Okay. So they said the most middle ground and common outcome is issuing a temporary stay. Okay. So now I'm not saying that that will happen, but my ChatGPT says, my little boyfriend, I call my ChatGPT my little boyfriend, okay? I'm married, so I got a little boyfriend. That's my boyfriend. So anyway, my little boyfriend said that the most common ground, the middle ground of it all, would be that they issue a temporary stay. So I'm not saying that they will or they won't, but I could see them doing it. And the reason being is because when I looked at the site, she's still scheduled for court on Monday at 9 o'clock. If she goes to court on Monday at 9 and they go ahead and process the paperwork to release her, then that's it. But I don't think that they would do that. I think that they will allow the state to go to the Supreme Court. Because if they don't, they basically saying, if you think about it, they're basically saying, nah, we don't care. We're going to uphold our ruling and you can go to the Supreme Court on your own. But I think because of, just procedural, right? How they look at it is, you know what? If you want to go up to the Supreme Court, go. They're going to tell you the same thing, right? So I think that they're going to just pause it just to allow the state time to go to the Supreme Court. But like my little boyfriend said, the Supreme Court has to accept it or not. Now, this is where things get a little funny, right? Because the Supreme Court don't just take all cases, right? It can't be like just case by case dependent. It has to be something that will affect the state, like the state's rule, okay? So let's talk about that for a moment. Let's talk about, because it would have to be, does this go against the state's rule? Because if it goes against the state's rule, then they'll look at it. But if it don't go against the state rule, meaning that if it's not going to affect the state as a whole, then they're not going to look at it. But if it affects the state as a whole, then they're going to look at it. What am I talking about? If it's going to set a precedence, like say for instance, the no cash bond that came out September of 2023, if it's challenging the Safety Act that came out in September of 2023, then the Supreme Court may pick it up. But if it doesn't challenge the Safety Act, if they just talk highly specific, then they may not pick it up. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Hold on. All right, hold on. It's putting it together in a smooth read for me. She said the Supreme Court would be going against the law, the very law they passed. So you might be right. You might be right, April. You might be right. So let's listen up.
Here's your smooth read, clean and ready to deliver. When it comes to the Illinois Supreme Court, they are not focused on the person. They are focused on the law. So the question is not whether this case is popular or dramatic. The real question is whether this case presents a legal issue that needs to be clarified for the entire state. One reason the Supreme Court might take this case is to clarify how the new pretrial detention law should be applied. Even though the law has been in place for a few years, courts are still working through what it actually means in practice. This includes questions like what qualifies as a real and present threat, how much evidence is enough to justify detention, and how self-defense claims should be considered before a trial even happens. Another reason is the disagreement between judges. In this case, the appellate court was split 2-1. That dissent matters because it shows that even judges looking at the same law and the same facts do not agree. When there is that kind of disagreement, the Supreme Court may step in to resolve it and set a clear standard going forward. The court may also be interested if the case raises a broader issue about how serious charges like first-degree murder are being handled under the current system. The question becomes whether the standard for detention is being applied consistently, especially in high-stakes cases. That is not about one defendant. It is about how courts across the state handle similar situations. Another factor is whether this case exposes a gray area in the law. For example, how much weight should be given to conflicting witness accounts or claims of self-defense at the detention stage? If different courts are handling those questions differently, the Supreme Court may want to step in and provide guidance. At the same time, it is important to understand that the Supreme Court does not take most cases. If they believe this case is simply about the specific facts and that the appellate court applied the law correctly, they will likely decline to get involved. So the bottom line is this: the Supreme Court would only take this case if they believe it helps define or clarify the law for everyone, not just resolve what happens to one person. If there is no bigger legal issue, they will likely let the appellate court's decision stand.
Okay, so with that said, it has to affect the entire state, right? Meaning that, this right here will set a precedence for the state of Illinois. So it would be like, which means someone that's charged with first degree murder and have the similar scenarios as Holly, meaning broad daylight, near school, and things of that such, right? Then they won't get pretrial detention. So it will set a precedence moving forward for the entire state. This is not just Holly specific, okay? So now I'm going to ask, how would the Supreme Court accepting this and ruling on it affect the state of Illinois as a whole? Because it will change. This will be like a new case law, right? So Holly's story will be a new case law because this will affect how they look at detention for the whole state of Illinois when it comes to first degree murder, okay?
Here's your smooth read, clear and ready to go. If the Illinois Supreme Court accepts this case and actually rules on it, the impact would go far beyond just Holly. It would affect how pretrial detention is handled across the entire state of Illinois. First, it would set a binding precedent. That means every trial court and appellate court in Illinois would have to follow whatever rule the Supreme Court lays out. Judges would no longer have as much flexibility to interpret the law differently because the standard would be clearly defined. Second, it would directly affect how prosecutors build their cases for detention. If the court rules that the state needs stronger evidence to prove someone is a real and present threat, then prosecutors statewide would have to come into detention hearings with more solid proof. On the other hand, if the court lowers or clarifies that standard in favor of the state, it could make it easier to keep people detained pre-trial. Third, it would shape how defense attorneys argue these cases. A ruling from the Supreme Court would give the defense a clear framework to challenge detention or to push for release. They would be able to point directly to the court's language and say, this is the standard that must be met. It would also impact how self-defense claims are treated at the detention stage. If the court addresses that issue, it could determine whether judges are allowed to consider those claims early on or whether they should wait until trial. That alone could change outcomes in many future cases. Another major impact is consistency. Right now, different courts may handle these situations slightly differently. A Supreme Court ruling would create a uniform rule across Illinois so similar cases are treated more the same, no matter where they are heard. And finally, it would influence the balance between public safety and individual rights. The court would essentially be deciding how far the state can go in holding someone before trial and what level of proof is required to justify taking away someone's freedom at that stage. So the bottom line is this: if the Supreme Court takes this case and rules on it, they are not just deciding one person's situation. They are setting the rules that will guide detention decisions across the entire state moving forward.
Listen, with that said, and I don't think a lot of people are thinking about that, right? With that said, this will change how they look at first degree murder charges in the state of Illinois. It literally can make or break that whole Safety Act, right? It could literally set a precedence that everybody that is charged with a similar crime won't have a chance in hell in getting pretrial detention. Or the opposite, right? If they are charged with first degree, it could actually mean that they may be able to get pretrial detention. So it's going to be no more, the circuit court looks at it this way, the appellate court may look at it that way, and the Supreme Court look at it that way. They will all be uniform across all the courts, which they should be anyway, but this puts a harsher standard on the state of Illinois as a whole, okay? So if the Supreme Court gets in this, it changes a lot for the state of Illinois, I mean, nobody should be committing first-degree murder. However, you're innocent until proven guilty. So people that's charged with first-degree murder, this is going to either go good for them or bad for them. This case right here, if the Supreme Court picks it up, this will set a precedence, okay? It will set a precedence moving forward, which means that no cash bond, it may literally hurt the citizens of Illinois. Meaning that if you're charged with first degree, you're going to have to sit down. You will have to sit down because basically if the Supreme Court picks this up and rules in the state's favor, then most likely nobody is getting out. If they're charged with first degree, they're not getting out. They're going to have to sit. They will have to sit. So will they even pick this up? The likelihood they won't unless they see this affecting the state as a whole, not just Holly. This will not be about just Holly if they take it up to the Supreme Court, okay? It may be about Holly when it comes to the state, the prosecutor, but it won't be about Holly by the time it comes back down from the Supreme Court, okay? She said, wow, and you have the right to defend yourself. Exactly. You have the right to defend yourself, but if you're charged with first degree, you're going to have to sit. If the Supreme Court agrees with the state. She said, well, what is the purpose of the damn law then? Girl, what is the... Listen, exactly, April. I agree with you because if you're innocent until proven guilty, this strictly goes against that. Let's put this in here right quick. Let's talk about that for a second. Okay. So I asked if you're guilty. I mean, if you're proven guilty, I know I said if you're innocent until proven guilty, how does this go against that? Okay, so let's listen. Because it does. That innocent till you're proven guilty, in my opinion, is just a statement. Because they look at you as guilty until you're proven innocent. And hell, even when you're proven innocent, child, you guilty in the social media world and in society, you guilty if they think you guilty, period. You'll never be innocent in some of these people's eyes. But let's listen.
Here's your smooth read, clear and balanced. When people hear innocent until proven guilty, they naturally think that means a person should never be locked up before trial. But legally, it is a little more complex than that. The principle of innocent until proven guilty means that no one can be punished unless the state proves their case beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. Pretrial detention is not supposed to be punishment.
Okay, let's just stop right there for a second. We're going to get back into it. But it said pretrial detention is not supposed to be punishment. Now, let's just pause for a second. If you're talking about somebody like Holly, somebody like me, that has lived a very quality life, not used to being in jail, sleeping in filth, being around, ghetto gang banging people that probably deserve to be in jail, right? How is it says is not designed to be a punishment? What? Being locked up, Holly has been locked up for almost 5 months. How is that not a punishment? Like, I would probably be dead right now because I probably wouldn't eat shit out of there. That's a punishment, right? Not being able to wake up when I want to, having the level of quietness that I want, having the cleanliness that I want, being able to eat whatever I want, being able to go wherever I want, being able to do whatever I want. That is a punishment. How do they say pretrial detention is not designed to be a punishment? But if they lock you up away from your family, especially your children, and your friends, that's a punishment. How do they not look at pretrial detention as a punishment? It is a punishment. But anyway, let us continue.
Here's your smooth read, clear and balanced. When people hear innocent until proven guilty, they naturally think that means a person should never be locked up before trial. But legally, it is a little more complex than that. The principle of innocent until proven guilty means that no one can be punished unless the state proves their case beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. Pretrial detention is not supposed to be punishment. It is supposed to be a limited exception used only when the state can prove that releasing someone would pose a real and present threat to others or a serious risk of not appearing in court. That is where the tension comes in. Because on one hand, the law allows the state to detain someone before trial under certain conditions. But on the other hand, that person has not been convicted of anything. So if the state cannot meet its burden to justify detention, then keeping that person locked up starts to conflict with the spirit of innocent until proven guilty. The argument from the defense side is straightforward. If the court has already determined that the state failed to prove the person is a danger, then continuing to hold them in jail is no longer a justified precaution. It begins to look more like punishment without a conviction.
Because it is.
Which is exactly what the principle of innocent until proven guilty is meant to prevent. From that perspective, every additional day in custody without a valid legal basis becomes a deprivation of liberty. The defense would argue that the system is not supposed to err on the side of detention just because the charges are serious. It is supposed to err on the side of freedom unless the legal standard for detention is clearly met. At the same time, courts justify pretrial detention by saying they are not deciding guilt. They are making a temporary decision about safety and court appearance based on the evidence available at that stage. That is how the system tries to reconcile detention with the presumption of innocence. So the issue is not that pretrial detention automatically violates innocent until proven guilty. The issue is whether the state has met the strict requirements that allow that exception in the first place. The bottom line is this: innocent until proven guilty is still the rule. Pretrial detention is the exception. And if the state cannot justify that exception, then continuing to hold someone starts to undermine the very principle the system is supposed to protect.
And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. If they fail to meet their burden to prove that she is a danger to the community, then she should be released. But I think the state has something to prove. They're saying, no, we didn't fail. We got it right. The appellate court got it wrong. That's what they're saying. In my opinion, like I said, I feel like it's an ego thing. She said the state is being strategic, sounds very bullshit over a confident case. I think that it's a struggle thing. It's a power thing. It's a power thing. Like I said yesterday, who wants to be wrong? Who wants to be proven wrong? Who wants to say that they failed? The state doesn't want to look like they failed. And this is the assistant state attorney, so that doesn't look good on his record. You know, they have a record to uphold. You know, you remember, well, y'all probably don't remember, but I've said this a while back that it looks bad for a state to lose. If they pick up a case and lose, they look bad. It is not a good look for them, right? So, and it carries them, their record. It stays on their record. So they feel that they're only going to pick up a case that they feel like they can win. And if they lose it, it's a bad look and it's waste of money, waste of energy, waste of time, waste of focus on a case that they probably shouldn't have never picked up in the first place. It looks bad on them. As a state prosecutor or even assistant prosecutor, if you're constantly picking up cases and you're losing it, listen, they're going to get rid of your ass for one, and they're going to get them another state prosecutor. They want state prosecutors that knows how to win cases. They don't want state prosecutors that lose, which means their time is going to be short-lived, right? But nevertheless, so I think it's about a power thing. It doesn't look good for the state. And he's an assistant state attorney, which means that he's probably working to become the state attorney one day. How is he going to fulfill that position if he's already failing at the assistant level? For the person that asked, how do you give a coffee? The link is pinned above. It should be pinned above. It should be pinned above. But thank you so very much. I do appreciate that. So she said they're going hard because they didn't want to pick it up anyway. And it's going to look bad for them if they lose this. It will look bad. And then look at the resources that they're spending, the money that they're wasting on this case. Because this is not going to be a cheap case. They're going to have different forensics and different analysis people come in and say this or that. Okay. Hold on one second. Somebody just text me. Oh, okay. She must not know I'm live. Let me let her know I'm live. No, she'll figure it out. She said they're tired of Ari beating them. I mean, it could be an embarrassment thing. Just think about it. If you are an assistant state attorney and you've been doing this for a while, and you have somebody that has never stood trial as the primary lawyer, attorney on the case, and they're kind of making you look like soup sandwich, that's not a good look for the state attorney. So with that being said, I do look at it pre-detention as a punishment. I don't know why they feel like it's not, because innocent until proven guilty and your ass is locked up for 5 months. It don't look like you innocent to me, right? And locked up for 5 months is a punishment, is what I'm saying. But it doesn't mean that she can't win her case. I still feel like it's going to be a uphill battle, not just an uphill. I just actually do not think that that they're going to be able to prove that. However, if the Supreme Court does pick this up and rule on it, then it's no longer just about Holly. They're basically saying, hey, state of Illinois, either you lock them up for this and keep them locked up for this, or you let them go. So it will be moving forward. This will be a state rule. A state rule put in place. This will not be just about Holly. So to be honest with you, if I lived in the state of Illinois, I would actually be kind of afraid of this outcome, because it could make, not that I would go around and, commit first degree. However, you never know what may happen. You might be put in a situation like this, where you have to defend yourself, or your loved one have to defend themselves. Okay. Which means that anybody moving forward, if the Supreme Court rules to keep her locked up, and because they're setting, if you commit first degree murder, if it's in the daylight, if it's across the street from a school, if it's around children, then you have to stay locked up because you're considered a danger to the community. If that's the case moving forward, everybody that pop, or unalive somebody in the daylight, near a school, around children, 3 shots, this, that, and the other, then they're going to have to stay locked up as well. So this will set a precedence moving forward. And but that's if they pick it up. Okay, I'm not saying that they will, but if they pick it up, it will be like this. So then I turn around, y'all. I need y'all to brace yourself on this one. I need y'all to brace yourself on this one. Y'all ain't gonna like me. Y'all ain't gonna like me. Take a drink. Take a drink. Take a drink. Y'all ain't gonna like me on this one. So I asked, has the Supreme Court ever had to deal with something like this before? Okay, have they had to step in and rule that someone should remain in custody, meaning remain detained under the new no cash bail system? Have they had to step in since September of 2023? This almost 3 years in effect, right? You would think that they've already had this issue. Girl, let me just tell you what it say. Hold on. Hold on.
Got you. You're asking something very specific. Has the Illinois Supreme Court stepped in and ruled that someone should remain detained under the new no cash bail system? Short answer, no. Not in a major controlling way yet. They have not issued a big precedent-setting ruling where they stepped in and said, this person must stay detained, or clearly reshaped how detention should be applied case by case. What they have done, upheld the law itself, Safety Act, adjusted rules and procedures like speeding up appeals, allowed lower courts, trials, appellate, to handle individual detention decisions. Where detention decisions are really happening, right now, the power sits with trial courts, decide detention initially, appellate courts, Review whether the state met its burden. What the Supreme Court is not doing so far, they are not regularly reversing appellate courts to keep people locked up, taking over fact-heavy detention disputes, acting like a final say on who stays in jail pre-trial. Why that matters in your case, the appellate court already said the state failed to meet its burden. For the Supreme Court to step in and override that, they would need to argue something bigger like confusion about how the law should be applied, inconsistent rulings across Illinois, not just, we disagree with the facts. Real talk. The Illinois Supreme Court has not been stepping in to decide who stays locked up under this new law. They approved the system, but they've been letting the appellate courts handle these detention decisions. So for them to jump in here, it would have to be about a bigger legal issue, not just this one case. Bottom line, the state asking the Supreme Court to keep her detained is allowed, but still a reach unless they show a bigger legal problem.
So far, now y'all know AI, what they do is go out and they gather information from all type of sites, okay? So it Googles all of these different sites to try to form their answer. So it's saying thus far, since September of 2023, when it went into effect, they have not had to rule on a case like this, right? They have not had to rule whether or not to let somebody stay detained or, or set free. Hold on, because right before that, give me 1 second. Okay, so in July of 2023, the court upheld the law that ruled that eliminated cash bail unconstitutional, right? So they ruled on it in July of 2023, and it was set in place September of 2023. But since then, they have not had a big deal like this to come forward, right? So this would be the first one again. So they have not ruled on this, and that kind of scares me just a little bit, because the fact that they have not ruled on it, and if they say, okay, well, God dang it, let's rule on it. Let's go ahead and set this precedent so nobody else will try this. Ooh, that's kind of scary. But nevertheless, I still think that, they won't pick it up. I think they won't pick it up, but because they have not ruled on it before, and if it has went up before and they never ruled on it, they may say, oh, well, we're going to rule on it this time. We're going to rule on it this time. So that's why I was saying brace yourself, because the fact that they have not ruled on it before is crazy, okay? She said the prosecution is trying to pacify the family instead of respecting the outcome that's already been decided. Thank you, Kissy. I appreciate that. I mean, they might, or again, it might just be an ego of the prosecutor. It may literally, because the prosecutor in the write-up, the appellate court said the prosecutor failed. That is a bad thing to move forward with a trial, and the appellate courts are already saying that you failed at something, okay? But now listen to this. Listen to this right here. I know this is not the outcome that we want, right? But listen to this right here, okay? Hold on. Just listen to this. Hold on. Listen to this right quick. Okay, I had to write it out. So I asked, if the Supreme Court do pick this case up, right? This is not the outcome that we want, But we're crossing all T's, right? Dotting all I's, crossing all T's. If the Supreme Court picks it up and they rule in the appellate court's favor, which means the defense wins, how does this shape the trial? How does this affect the trial moving forward? Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Sorry, y'all. My baby daddy trying to call me. Hold on. I'll call him back. All right. Okay. So let's go. I need it in a smooth read. Hold on. Can I get this in a smooth read? Give me a second. So I'm gonna do two separate ones, okay? So listen up. Here we go.
Great question. Think of a Supreme Court ruling here as affecting pretrial detention rules and leverage, not deciding guilt or innocence. If the Supreme Court sides with the appellate court, defense wins. What it means legally, it confirms the state did not meet the standard to keep her jailed before trial. It reinforces that courts must use least restrictive conditions unless the state proves detention is necessary. What happens next in the case? She is released under conditions, monitoring, no contact, etc. The case proceeds to trial as normal. Discovery continues. Motions are filed. Eventual trial or plea discussions. Impact on the prosecution. On the detention issue, it makes the state look weak. You couldn't justify holding her pre-trial even after Supreme Court review. It can reduce leverage, harder to pressure a plea when the defendant is out. It may push the state to tighten its trial presentation, shore up witnesses, clarify timeline, simplify theory. Impact on the defense, big credibility boost. 2 levels of court said the state didn't meet its burden. Useful for narrative, not as evidence of innocence. Supports arguments about overreach and alternatives to detention. Will it affect the trial outcome? Indirectly only. The ruling is about pretrial custody, not guilt. It can shape perception and strategy, but the jury still decides based on trial evidence. If the Supreme Court sides with the state, prosecution wins. What it means legally, it says the state did meet the standard, or the appellate court applied the wrong standard. It clarifies that detention can be justified on the record presented. What happens next in the case? She likely remains detained or is redetained. The case moves forward with her in custody until trial or further orders. Impact on the prosecution, strong credibility boost. Highest court backed our position, increases leverage. Defendants detained pre-trial often face more pressure in negotiations. Helps frame the case as serious and risk-laden. Impact on the defense, setback on detention, but they can still challenge the evidence at trial. Still file motions, attack credibility, present self-defense, etc. They may pivot to trial-focused strategy rather than release arguments. Will it affect the trial outcome? Again, not directly. It can influence tone and leverage, but it does not prove guilt. The key principle to keep straight A Supreme Court decision here answers. Open quote, should she be jailed before trial? Close quote. It does not answer. Open quote, is she guilty? Close quote. Bottom line, defense wins at Supreme Court. Looks like the state overreached on detention. Defense gains leverage. Trial still proceeds on the evidence. State wins at Supreme Court. Strengthens the state's posture and leverage. Defendant likely remains detained. Trial still proceeds on the evidence. Clean on streamline.
Okay, hold on. Now, hold on. Hold on. All right, this is the one I wanted. I'm sorry.
Here's a smooth, clean read you can use verbatim. What you're really asking is not about guilt or innocence, but how it looks, depending on what the Supreme Court does. And that's a fair question, because perception does matter, even if it's not supposed to decide the case. If the Supreme Court sides with the appellate court, which favors the defense, it makes the state look weak on the issue of detention. It sends the message that they tried to keep her locked up and could not justify it, not just once, but even after a higher court reviewed it. It can come across like the state overreached or pushed too hard without enough support. On the other side, it makes the defense look strong and credible. It suggests that their arguments held up under scrutiny and that multiple courts agreed the state did not meet its burden. It does not prove innocence, but it can make people step back and question how solid the state's case really is.
Right.
Now, if the Supreme Court sides with the state, the perception shifts. It makes the prosecution look stronger and more justified in their position. It reinforces the idea that their concerns about detention were valid and that this is a serious situation that warranted keeping her in custody. It can make it seem like the appellate court got it wrong and the state corrected it. For the defense, that outcome is a setback, at least on the issue of detention. It can make their argument look less convincing in that specific area, even though it does not determine the outcome of the trial itself. The most important thing to understand is that none of this decides guilt. These rulings are about whether she should be held before trial, not whether she committed the crime. The jury will not hear about these decisions in the way the public does. But in the real world, perception still plays a role. It can affect how confident each side appears, how the public views the case, and even how the case is approached moving forward. So if the defense wins at the Supreme Court level, it can make the state look like they overreached. If the state wins, it can make their position look stronger and more justified. Either way, the actual question of guilt will still have to be proven in court.
Okay, so with that said, if it is taken all the way up to the Supreme Court and they rule in the appellate's favor that they did their job and that the state did not prove that she, prove beyond a burden, prove that she's not a danger, then it's going to make the state look even worse, because that means two higher courts said you failed. So this is not going to make the state look good if it comes back not in their favor. Now, of course, we don't want it to go all the way up because it could stall Holly from being able to get out, okay? So if it goes to the Supreme Court, right? If they accept it, then it could go one or two ways. They can literally say, nope, the appellate court was right, which makes the state look bad, right? Which the defense will, get a little boost in, look at you, state, your case is weak, right? Your case is weak. It doesn't prove innocent or guilt, but it just says that the state is pushing something that without strong evidence, they're just pushing stuff. Just like Dion said, it raises doubt about the whole case. The whole state case will look weak, right? However, if they side with the state, it will give them a boost, and the defense will have to step up their game, okay? So now this is even if it goes to the Supreme Court. If they don't accept it, let's ask that. Let's ask that, okay? If the appellate court approved the stay and allows the state to take it up to the Supreme Court, and it goes to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court reject it, don't even take it, then how does it make the defense look versus the state looks? All right, so if they don't accept it, that's the question we're at now. Thank you, big sis. Appreciate the love. She said, I didn't know you were live. I will start over while working. Okay, I was going to text it to you and tell you, but I was like, I'll just call you when I get off. All right, so if they don't take it at all, then let's go from there. If the appellate court does say, yep, we're going to pause and we're going to keep the stay until you take this up to the Supreme Court, then what happens? if the Supreme Court don't accept it?
Here's a smooth read you can use. If the appellate court grants a stay and allows the state to take it up to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court ultimately refuses to even take the case, that sends a very specific message. It does not mean the state was wrong about everything, but it does mean the Supreme Court did not see this as important enough or legally significant enough to step in. In other words, they did not see a reason to disturb what the appellate court already decided. From a perception standpoint, that makes the defense look stronger. It shows that even after the state tried to escalate the issue to the highest court, nothing changed. The appellate court's ruling still stands, and the defense position holds. For the state, it can make them look like they pushed hard but did not get the result they wanted. It can come across as them trying every available option, but ultimately not being able to move the needle. It does not necessarily make their entire case weak, but on the issue of detention, it can look like they overreached or did not have enough to justify keeping her locked up. At the same time, the fact that the appellate court granted the stay in the first place gives the state a small amount of credibility. It shows that at least one court thought it was worth pausing things temporarily to allow further review. So it is not a complete loss in terms of optics, but it is not a win either. The final picture looks like this. The defense comes out looking more consistent and validated because their position survived multiple levels of review. The state looks like they made a strong effort to challenge the ruling, but could not get the highest court to engage with it. And just like before, none of this decides guilt. It only shapes how strong or weak each side appears going into the next phase of the case.
All right, y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. So with that being said, so basically it just says if the appellate court grants a stay, it's not a win for the state, but it does look like the appellate court, or at least one court, which is the appellate court, saw fit to just pause for a moment and allow another court to intervene and rule on this. Okay. So at this point, we don't know what the appellate court's going to do. Let me look again right quick and see if they've done anything, because I've been on for an hour. So it is 3 o'clock right now, or a little after 3. Let me recheck. Let me check, and see if it's updated. And then we will continue to talk. Okay, Quadeja Johnson. All right, hold on. She said she needs to sit her emotional, immature ass right in jail. Ooh, Kiki. Emotional, immature. I think we can all be emotional, immature at some points of our life. Have you ever been emotional, immature? I don't think that's a good word to describe Holly, because I think all women can be emotional, immature at some point. You don't think so? I know I've been emotionally immature before. I'm pretty sure you have too. Kia Jones. Is that how you say your name? Kia Jones. Kia Jones. Are you saying that you've never been emotionally immature? I'm just saying, because baby, you know we could do things off of our emotions that make us look real bad, baby. Hold on, I'm waiting for it to come up. I know I have been emotionally immature. Hell, I was emotionally immature before I came live. Ask Candy. Shit, I just popped off. Hell, I'm telling you, you got to do it. She said, was it not emotionally immature to stop and pull up on somebody? See, I knew y'all was going to get into it, but that's what she was, though. She said, an emotional and immature person won't stop in the middle of the street. Hold on, y'all. I'm waiting for this thing to come up. I knew y'all was going to say something. I probably should have read it off. That's me, y'all. That's me. That's on me. She said, oh my God, who was emotionally immature on September the 8th? Lord Jesus. Y'all are too funny. Too funny. She probably like, let me get out of this chat. This is the wrong one. All right, y'all. It's saying, okay, it's not even coming up yet. It's not even coming up yet. So I don't know why the system is just paused again. It was like this yesterday as well. So it's not coming up. So anyway, so again, we've learned a lot today, right? What have we learned? We learned that most likely the appellate court is going to grant a temporary stay, okay? And the reason being is because the circuit court is still scheduled for 9 o'clock on Monday. If they don't do anything right now, then, I mean, you know, it's going to hurt the state trying to go to the Supreme, okay? Because Hollywood already have orders to be released. And it will be harder for them to have to come back, release her, and then bring her back in. So I could see them granting a temporary stay until the state go to the Supreme Court with this. Now, they may give them a due date and say, hey, you need to take this up to the Supreme Court by this date. Matter of fact, I think there is a due date. Let me read that. I think there is a due date if they send this up. Hold on. What is the due date? I want to say, okay, in the state of Illinois, the state generally has 35 days to file a petition for leave to appeal. So the state has up to 35 days, okay? It says the 35 days starts when the appellate court judgment date. So not the stay date. So it won't be, if they order a stay for today, it will have to be backed up a few days, right? So whenever this judgment went into play, which I think it was the 20th. So 35 days from the 20th, okay? All right, it says, because this is a pretrial detention appeal, everything must move fast. That's why the state asked for a stay. The appellate court, well, if the appellate court grants the stay, then it will pause the mandate. So basically it says that they will most likely file before 35 days. They have up to 35 days, but they most likely will file before 35 days. If the stay is granted, then they will most likely file before the 35 days. However, they do have up to 35 days to file a petition to the Supreme Court, okay? But, you know, but it said that they will most likely do it before the 35 days. All right? That's a long ass time. That's a month and 5 days. That's a long ass time. She said, hell, not only on September the 8th, all of Ramika crash outs and love showed who was emotionally immature. We can all be emotionally immature. She said, you're not being emotionally immature by saying what you just said about this young lady that you don't know. Oh, emotionally mature people don't ride down on people and crash out. Or don't ride up on people and crash out. Right. Like I said, we can all be emotionally immature at some point, right? We can. At some point in our lives, we can be emotionally immature. We just don't even be thinking about things, and we be, you know, thinking on our emotions, and we react, okay? So, you know, if they're saying Holly was emotionally immature, Ramika was emotionally immature to pull up, sometimes we as bloggers can be emotionally immature, and just people in general, we could be emotionally immature. But I think a lot of people don't want to put themselves in Holly's shoes at all. You know, y'all remember in the beginning that they were saying, oh, I would have fought her. I would have done this. I would have ran. I would have ducked up underneath the car and all this other shit or whatever. I just think a lot of people will say what they would have done until they're put in that situation. She says, do you think they'll take into consideration the majority didn't rule? Will they take that into account, what the other judge felt? Wait a minute, that the majority didn't rule? Say that again, Crystal. Do you think they'll take into consideration the majority didn't rule? Will they take that into account, what the other judge felt? Are you saying, yeah. Oh, the majority did rule. Yeah, I do think that the Supreme Court will probably take that into effect, but do I think that they will take the case because of that? I think that they will only take the case if they feel like it's going to affect a statewide ruling. I don't think that it's going to be bogged down to just Holly's case. It has to be something that's going to affect the whole state of Illinois. That's the only reason why I think that they would pick this up. Is this going to set a precedence moving forward? I don't think it's going to be, oh, well, this judge thought this and another judge thought that. I think it's going to be more on, let us at the Supreme Court set the precedence on what's considered a detainable offense. Like, let's just make these rules once and for all. Because as I did my research, it said that they have not done that yet. So because they haven't done that yet, then, you know, it may be likely that they will want to do that. She says there were 3 judges, one didn't agree. Yeah, one didn't agree. But majority does rule. However, the Supreme Court will only pick it up if it affects the state, the law, the state's law, not necessarily just Quadasia Johnson, you know? If Holly was emotionally immature, then Ramika was emotionally immature to the 20th power. Sometimes people don't have the time to think and need to act like Holly did. Listen, that's why I say that, you know, to be honest with you, I don't like how people try to judge Holly, because we could have all been a Holly, right? You don't know what you're going to do when you put in certain situations. That's why sometimes when people say, oh, I'll leave if this happened to me, or I'll leave if that happened to me. And yeah, you think you will when you're standing on the outside looking in. But when you're standing on the inside, you may think something totally different. So we have to be careful with what we're saying that we will or we won't deal with. Now, of course, some of us have hard boundaries that I don't give a fuck. We're going to stand by it, right? But on certain things, you can't really say what you would do until you face in that situation. And because sometimes we make decisions based on how we feel that day. It may not be the best decision, but we make decisions on how we feel that day. And it seems like Holly made a decision on how she felt at that moment. Okay? But to take away from that and say, oh, she wasn't in fear of her life, or, you know, she didn't have to do that. She could have done this. She could have done that. That's easier said than done when you was not there. When you were not put in that situation, when you did not have to go through what she had to go through dealing with this person. So would it be something that you would have done? Who knows? If you already have a weapon on you, most of these people that saying that they wouldn't have never done it, they're not gun holders. They don't carry. They don't have guns. They don't know how to shoot guns. They don't even believe in the Second Amendment. You know what I'm saying? They think guns just automatically just kill you. You know what I mean? So I just feel that if they were gun holders and they had a gun on them, then that would be something that they would have to decide right then and there. But a lot of them don't carry guns. And they would have fought because that's just what they're used to doing, fighting in the street, you know? Guerrilla warfare. She said, that's so true, because she don't look like a fighter, and a scared person will hurt you. Yeah, they do say a scared person will hurt you. Not only does Holly not look like a fighter, she doesn't look like any of the thug, hoe, bitch names that they've been calling her thus far. Now, if we turned around and applied those names to Ramika, they would have a whole motherfucking cow over there, right? They'll be spitting out their goddamn ears over there, their eyes, their ears, their nose, and everything. But they call Holly all type of hoes. But I can't understand how a hoe, a real documented hoe, can call Holly a hoe. You understand what I'm saying? But nevertheless, you know, this is not for me to fight back and forth with any content creator. Them days are over with. Content creators can say what the fuck they want to say, because, you know, I'm still rising, and they ain't stopped shit, and they ain't gonna stop shit. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I don't fight with, especially itty bitty content creators, them little ones. Hey, Miss Fee for life, girl. Them little ones, I don't fight with them no more. Them days, me fighting back and forth with content creators are over. I got bigger fish to fry. She said, I hate the fact when people keep disregarding the fact that Holly's son was right there and how much Ramika hated her son. Exactly. She had her child there. And then the appellate court said she was pregnant. So not only did she have a child, she had a child in her belly as well. So she was protecting 3 people: herself, her 6-month-old at the time, and the baby in her belly. Ramika is the one that bent over backwards. Wait a minute. Ramika is the one bent over back, was seeing all of her Kuda cat hood antics. Her and her sister always trying to fight. Yeah, I don't want to dog Ramika out like that, talk about her coochie, because that's what them people over there do. They talk underneath women clothes and stuff like that or whatever. So we don't really want to do that over here. Cause yeah, we don't care about another woman's coochie. They be all wanting to sniff and see and taste other women's coochie and shit. But she said, read my comment. She said, I am a Holly. You are not going to come up on me, especially when you have threatened me and my child on several occasions. That's all. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know for a fact that I would protect myself, I know I would protect myself, so I could very well end up in a situation like this, She said how she felt at that moment was based off a prior negative communication which activated her limbic brain, not or rational cortex. Girl, you use some words that I ain't never heard of before. But I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying her behavior or her actions was based off of prior threats and all that bullshit that Ramika had been telling her. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, if you threaten me and my child life, and now all of a sudden I see you and you already on that type of time, yes, I'm going to feel like, oh, okay, she came to do what she said she was going to do. She came to carry out what she's been saying. So let me guard myself. So I would feel the same way. I think any normal person would. Any normal person. And let me tell you something, the biggest, baddest, loudest people, they be acting like they so biggity bad. Man, let me tell you something. They be acting like they biggity badass, always talking about what they gonna do, but they be the main ones that's really scared, right? But they look at the people that's not yelling and spitting and crashing out on the internet. They be looking at them as weak. They be like, oh, she ain't gonna do nothing. She can't fight. She weak. She ain't gonna do nothing. And that be the one that will send you to glory, okay? But it be the ones that acting like, I beat a bitch ass. I do this to a bitch. I eat you up and I spit you out. And I do this to you. They ain't gonna do shit. They ain't gonna do nothing. Okay? They ain't gonna do nothing. I'm telling y'all, them loud ones, them little loud ones that be out that rah, 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 I'm gonna do this to you, I'm gonna do that to you. They be fooling folks. They be on the internet making people think that they the biggest and the baddest. I promise you, them the ones that get snatched by their goddamn ears. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, I'm my fighting days over. I used to fight a long time ago. I ain't even gonna lie. I used to fight in school. When I was in school, just understand the age. I used to fight, but I'm damn sure I'm 53 years old. What I look like out here fighting somebody at 53? I'm not fighting nobody at 53. I'm not fighting nobody. And ain't nobody fighting me, period. And if I have to sit down for protecting myself or defending myself, then I just have to sit down. Period. That's just how I look at it. If I end up taking a life and I know in my hearts of hearts that I was defending myself, I will sit down. I will sit down. She said she's not a fighter, sir. I can't even, suburbs. I think that's what you mean. Suburbs raised. Yes, I agree with you. I was raised in the suburbs too. I was not raised in no hood or no ghetto or anything like that. I wasn't raised in a I ain't saying all apartment environments was the hood, but I wasn't raised in an apartment environment. We had a house in a neighborhood with neighbors, with a fence, with dogs, with cars, with how, you know what I'm saying? Grass. We had grass. We mowed our lawn. We had sprinkler systems. Well, not sprinkler system. We did have a sprinkler system where we had to go out there and move that goddamn that water hose with the little thing attached to it. We had to move that around to get the, to make sure all the grass get wet. But we was not raised in the hood. We had front grass and back grass, backyard grass and front yard grass, and we had to cut it. You know what I'm saying? Well, not us cut it particularly, but, our daddy and my brother cut the grass. So, I wasn't raised in the hood to where, I didn't dodge bullets and shit like that. I wasn't raised like that. I was not raised like that. However, it sometimes it's not even dependent on how you was raised. It's what you do after you become grown. Because even though we weren't raised like that, you still may have a sibling that go to the streets after they leave mommy and daddy house, right? Some people go to the streets. Some people go elsewhere. I've never been in the streets. I've never been a street girl. Never, ever been a street girl. I fought in school because people used to pick at me. You know, I was adopted, so they used to talk about me being adopted all the time, which I think now is the weirdest shit ever. I think it's weird because I can't even understand why I was so mad when they were like, you was adopted. Don't nobody love you. I would fight. I would get in a fight, you know. And then my sister, because my sister fought all the time. Hell, I used to fight because my sister fought. But I had to learn my lesson, stop putting my hands on people, okay? Because I put my hands on people before too. But I had to learn to keep my hands to myself. And I told y'all I got locked up when I was 17 years old. And I thought I was biggity badass when I got locked up until that lady in there was like, yeah, I got a daughter your age. She said, yeah, you think you tough, don't you? You'll be back. You will be back. And I said, no, I won't. And I meant that. My daddy made me sit for 27 hours before he got me out. And he didn't really get me out. I had to go before the damn judge and pay a fine. Okay? So listen, that was my lesson learned right there. I had to learn to keep my hands to myself. Keep my hands to myself. I know people that's still fighting in their 40s and 50-year-old. They still fighting. They're literally still fighting, putting their hands on people. How retarded does that look? You still fighting and you 50 years old, getting drugged, knees scuffled up and shit like that or whatever. But I'm like, Holly, I'm not about to fight you and you're not about to attack me. You're not about to get no licks in. Because see, listen, if Romika would have fought Holly that day, the only thing that she would have done is came to social media and bragged about it. I tagged that bitch. I tore that bitch up. I did that to that bitch. She wanted bragging rights. She wanted bragging rights. So all I say is you got to keep your hands to yourself. We know that sometimes people don't make it out of fights, right? Because they can hit their heads or get beat to death. You know, you could bleed on the brain and things of that nature. And all of these people that we were dealing with early on in the sector that would be like, you know, saying things like, oh, she should have fought and y'all wrong. You don't do that to people and this, that, and the other. You could just tell that they were brought up differently than you. And that's not a, that don't make them, that doesn't make them a bad person, how they were brought up. They just was brought up to believe that you throw hands, I guess. But everybody wasn't brought up that way. And that's what they need to look at. Everybody wasn't brought up to throw hands. And you know, they want to say, oh, because your ass is scary, your ass is scary. No, that doesn't mean that you're scary. That just means that's not what you were taught. That wasn't ingrained in you. You didn't have to go around doing that. But that doesn't make that person scary, and it doesn't make the person that was brought up having to fight. It doesn't make them a horrible person either. It just means that they went two different paths. That's why it's such a split. Now, when I say such a split, I know it's not an equal split. There are more people that support Romika than Holly, but there are people that out there that support Holly that's not in the chats, that's not commenting, doing any of that, but they're following the case secretly or behind the scenes because they don't want to be put into this drama. But and as you can see, there's people that see this totally different. They see this totally different. But it doesn't mean that the way I see it is more right than the way a person see it the opposite way. They're looking at it like a life was taken. I get it. But you have to understand, in this world, every life that's taken is not murder. Some lives is taken to save another life. And that's what people don't understand. They may not think so. They may not think, oh, that lady wasn't going to KI her. I don't know that, and they don't know that. They don't know if Romika would have KI'd her or not. KI'd her or seriously harmed her. They don't know that. But do you suppose to sit around and wait to see if someone's going to seriously harm you? Seriously hurt you? And they may say, how was she going to seriously hurt her when Carlos was there? Carlos had moved up his vehicle. He wasn't there right then and there at that time. Right? So, you know, I just feel that when they call Holly a cold-blooded murderer. To me, you know what a cold-blooded murderer is? Somebody that seeks you out, plot and plan an attack against you. They already want to do that. And when I heard, this is how I know that I am of a different caliber. When I heard people coming up with a scenario that Holly went and obtained a stay away order, right? No contact order, just because she knew that this is what she wanted to do, I knew that my mindset was different than those people, okay? Because who thinks like that? Who thinks like that? Who thinks I'm going to go get a protective order so I can KI her one day? Who literally, think about that for a second. Who would make your mind go in that direction? Only a person that would do something like that would think like that. I wouldn't have never thought in a million years that somebody would go get an order just so they can turn around and kill you. A person that even think like that, you might want to stay away from. Like, huh? Where you get that from? Again, I would think only a street person, if that's what we calling it, would think like that. Because I wouldn't think like that at all. You know? Birds of a feather. Birds of a feather. So I think she did that because she actually wanted the girl to leave her alone. Just wanted her to leave her alone. Sometimes they escalate. The stalking, the harassment, you could probably deal with it for, a minute or two or whatever. You might go back and forth with a person. But after a while, you like, man, leave me alone. Leave me the hell alone. Just leave me alone. She said, Amor, did you ever look into that video and what ChatGPT said about the background conversation? No, I didn't. Can you send that to me again? I'm sorry. I didn't look into it. I was taking care of some other stuff. Hey, Meg. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. So I think she really just wanted her to leave her alone. Just leave me alone. Like, damn, leave me alone. Right? Because she was reaching out to her, reaching out to her family, reaching out to her friends. Of course, why not get a restraining order? That's what they're for. Restraining orders is when you're really getting really harassed, okay? Really harassed. Not that you came out and lied on a person and said you slept with their husband and shit like that or whatever, and did the most crash out for a year, and then all of a sudden you want to, go take somebody to court. That's not what a real restraining order is for, okay? That's not what a real TPO is for. That right there is you a liar. That's just what that means. You are a liar and you know it, right? But a real restraining order, if someone is really harassing you, like literally really bothering you, they are following you, they are calling you, they are texting you, they're inboxing you, they're texting your friends, they're harassing your friends, they're in your inbox. That's real harassment. That's real harassment, especially after you done said, please leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. So, that's real stalking. That's real harassment. What Romika was doing was really stalking and harassing Holly. Really stalking and harassing, But nevertheless, it is what it is. I just feel that if we see a temporary stay, just know that they're doing it because they it's almost like all right, we will allow you to go to a higher court. We ain't gonna stop you. Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. I don't feel like Holly would have used that gun if she didn't think she was trying to defend herself. Same here. I agree as well. She said the media started out reporting this wrong and it took off from there. Every plot they could imagine in their brain came out their mouths. Yes, I do believe that it was reported incorrectly from the get-go, and that's what, stirred the pot here. I do believe that. Some of these women are ratchet. They won't leave you alone. That's project behavior. Yeah, some of these women are ratchet, and then they mad because you're not. They want you to be ratchet with them. They want you to have a jail record. They want you to be a criminal. And the reason why is because they feel like they are. They're like, oh, hell no, we want you to be a criminal because we're a criminal. We faced this before, so we want you to have to face it too. I think that's crazy. Okay, I got it, Cassie. I got it. I'll break it down. Yeah, but they want you to be a criminal because, they don't like that, they feel like, oh, you're too straight and narrow. You're not, your record ain't messed up enough. I want to mess your record up. So let me keep poking and picking and poking and picking and poking and picking with the hopes of you saying something that I can run to the courts and get you in trouble. Because it's people out here that will poke and pick, poke and pick, poke and pick, all because they want you to say something back to them. And if you don't say nothing, then they say, oh, you're scared, or, you ain't saying nothing because of this, or you ain't saying that because of that. But you're saying, I ain't saying nothing because you are not that mother effing important, girl. Stop playing. Amor, did you see the case about the teenager that shot his dad when he tried to drop him off at school in Louisiana? Hell no, I ain't see that. No, I didn't see that. She said some of these women are ratchet and they won't leave you alone. Oh, I just read that. She said, so was there a restraining order the time of the shooting? Yes, there was a restraining order the time of the shooting. There was a restraining order the time of the shooting. Despite what anybody says, there was a restraining order at the time of the shooting, period. Period. Yes, it was. I came in late. Has there been any news about Holly? Not yet. But I was just telling people my chat GPT said it's most likely and more common for them to grant the stay temporarily to give the state time to take it to the Supreme Court. So we may hear something soon. I mean, it's 3:43, so we should be hearing something soon. She said, more if an update come in today, we'll be waiting on you. Did you get enough rest already? Yes, I did, child. I went to sleep. You remember I said I was going to come back last night and I couldn't even come back. So was there, oh, I just read that. Hey, Penny, how are you girls? She said, I've been on my lawnmower all day. I'm so glad you're live. You be out there cutting that grass, girl. She said, Tia Lioness claimed that she has an update on live. She said that today. Tia said that today. Let me see. Let me look again. Because I've been looking for an update. Let me hit refresh. It might have me sign back in. It's just doing the round around thing. It won't let me. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. It just pulled up. Let me see. Hold on, y'all. I don't see an update. Oh, hold on. It says next. Let me do this one. Nope. I don't see an update. I don't see an update. She said Tia is live now. All right. Let me go to Tia right quick. Tia irks me. She's literally putting on makeup.
Oh, I need a rich guy, just somebody that doesn't make me feel. See? None of them that can make me feel. See?
She putting on makeup.
Alright, let's get to them. I'm from the block, baby. Who I got, baby?
I can't believe she.
You gotta be kidding me, no woman.
Oh my God, girl.
Never turn it on.
Oh my God, girl. Oh my goodness. Does it take all that? I guess so. I mean, I guess she's a real journalist. Somebody said she's so unprofessional. Oh my goodness. She need all that? Or maybe she just might be doing a makeup tutorial. But it says I have an update. We don't even know what she has an update about. Oh my goodness. She said Tia is a joke. A joke and a half. Damn, is that what y'all have to do with that weave? Or wig? What is that, a wig or a weave? Is that a wig or a weave? Because I know that ain't her damn hair. She just cut it off. What the hell? Her goofy ass. She just ended the whole live stream. She don't even have no idea what she doing. Did she really just come live just to flip her hair? Lord Jesus, Tia is a joke. She went 15 minutes. She went live for 15 minutes to put some goddamn makeup on. And said that she have an update. This lady is delusional to me. Somebody said with her pink earrings on. Oh my gosh, she's such a joke. She probably realized, oh my God, I did not know I was live doing this. Oh my God. Oh my God. Somebody said she was being shady. What did she say, being shady? So did she give an update in those 15 minutes? Let me see.
That she was driving for Uber, doing a delivery package, was on the phone. It was a warm day. I think it was 70 something that day. Call police, etc. She never opened the box. Hold on a second. Yeah, I would just want, if somebody interviewed with me, if I was the person being interviewed, I would hope.
Oh, she's talking about a different story, y'all. That's what it sounds like to me. She's talking about a different story.
That the person I did the interview would come back out and say, well, actually what happened was, so I'm being that person because I just think that's the right thing to do. So in her case, to be very clear, she never opened the box.
Let's start it from the beginning.
I don't know what I'm gonna do for my eyeliner. I'm trying to think real quick. But anyways, people were saying, she shouldn't have opened.
I actually think she looks better without the makeup. Don't y'all? I don't know what it is, but I actually think that her face looked better without the makeup. I think with the makeup, in my opinion, she looks too... Yeah, I don't know what the word is. But anyway, I think she looks better without the makeup.
The box. And I just wanted to clear that up.
She has pretty skin.
Because people are a little misled in this situation about the box. And I just felt like, okay. I don't know if anybody on here will run into
Somebody need to tell Tia that she looks better without the makeup.
her, but she deserves, for the truth to be told about her. She never opened the box.
If I ever had to do this right here every single day, I promise you, that's why y'all see me looking the way y'all do, how y'all be seeing me, because I am not doing this every goddamn day. This crazy. I would never have to get up every morning and put that shit on my face. I promise you I wouldn't do that shit.
She could smell in her car, so she didn't have to open the box. And I just wanted to make that clear because I just think that's, I just thought it was unfair. And I will want, if I share my story with somebody, I will want them to speak up on my behalf. So, yeah, I just wanted to let that be known that, hold on a second. Yeah, I would just want, if somebody interviewed with me, if I was the person being interviewed, I would hope that the person I did the interview will come back out and say, well, actually what happened was, so I'm being that person because I just think that's the right thing to do. So in her case.
So now we putting lipstick on our noses for, what is that for? What the hell do you put lipstick on your nose for? Does it make your nose look smaller? Like, what the hell? When did they start doing this? Is this a new thing?
To be very clear, she never opened the box. The box was in her vehicle. She let up the windows of her car because she was on the phone, and that's when she can
Who blends lipstick into their nose? I've never seen nobody do this shit, ever.
smell what were the contents of the box. And then that prompted her to then call police, etc. And then that is how that whole investigation played out. So to everybody saying she opened the box, misinformed, never opened the box, but could just smell the box's contents is essentially what happened. So I just felt the need to, I don't know. I'm all about doing the right thing. And I feel like, if somebody's going to be kind enough and vulnerable enough to do an interview with you, you should make sure that it's very.
So you go get weave and you still gotta do it? Like you gotta curl it and you gotta do it? Shouldn't it be, as much as these wigs and these weaves cost, shouldn't it already be done when you put it on your head? You gotta actually do maintenance on top of fake hair? What's the purpose of paying all this money for it and you gotta still fix it? What type of sense does that make? Shouldn't you just be able to put it on your head? If I'm gonna go spend that type of money, I just wanna put it on. Why do I have to actually maintain it, like maintenance it? I ain't trying to curl something that I spent a whole lot of money on. What's the purpose of having it? That doesn't make no damn sense to me.
Clear about what happened.
You think I'm gonna spend $1,000 on a wig and then curl it? No, that shit better come curled.
It's not necessary for her reputation to then be ruined.
Ain't no way I'm about to do somebody else's hair on my head. You might as well be a beautician. You're doing somebody else's hair on your head. Make it make sense to me. Come on.
Because people have made up their own narratives of what they think happened. She was driving for Uber, doing a delivery package, was on the phone. It was a warm day. I think it was 70 something that day. I looked it up, rolled up the window, and then the smell just smacked her in the face. And that's when she realized something was wrong, in addition to the
Ain't no way I'm about to sit there and curl somebody else's hair.
person that she was doing the delivery for started, making her try to change the location.
She combing the shit out of that hair. You remember how we used to comb our baby doll hair back in the day? She combing the shit out of that hair. God damn.
And that's when she was like, what? Something's wrong here. And then got a little freaked out, got a little scared, and called PD. So that's how that played out. And I just wanted that to be, clear. I just think that, that's the right thing to do, is to not have somebody out here being accused of something that's not true. Yes, the Uber driver is what we're talking about. So yeah, I just wanted to clear up that narrative real quick. So that's the story in which I am currently speaking on right now. So I just wanted you guys to know that, if you are one of those people that have seen the story, because I saw a lot of people like, that's what she gets for being nosy. And it's like, yeah, that's not exactly how that played out, but okay. And it's just always interesting how people come up with their own narratives. So that part. I hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you have a great weekend. I'm doing this with my hands because I need to clean my brushes. So here we are, trying to make it do what I got. A lot of stuff fell into my bag. So upsetting. But here we are. Here we are. I decided to wear something floral today. Something less fitted than my normal fits.
She said I decided to wear something floral. Somebody should have told her that is just not cute. I don't know. I don't like floral prints. Hell no. They look dated to me.
A lot of my clothes are very form-fitting.
I decided to wear something floral today.
I was like, today we're gonna do something different. Not that form-fitting can't be classy, but I just think sometimes that gets old.
Girl.
Everything ain't gotta be skin tight. You know? Everything. I'm not done. I got a whole lot of work to do. I'm just getting started.
If you gotta do all of that shit to your face, if you gotta do all of that shit to your face every damn day, like, what the hell? I'm just sitting up here like, what the hell? Can y'all imagine me doing this shit? Man, I would never come live. Y'all would be like, where is Amora? Hell, Amora taking 6 hours to put on makeup. God damn, and then y'all wonder why I be coming with my damn face looking the way it does. Shit. If I gotta do all that, what the hell? She just turned a whole nother damn color off in there. So the first thing that she put on there, that wasn't enough? Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. And then she lifting up her chin like she ain't got a whole nother chin on the top, underneath her chin. Y'all, this is probably why I never wore makeup. Ain't no way I'm doing all this shit right here. Every day? Are you kidding me? Ain't no way. Y'all can keep that. I come as I is, baby. I'm not doing all of that shit. I know because it may be her job. What the fuck is she doing now? Damn, how much does she need on there? What's the purpose? What is the purpose? Don't tell me she about to put some more shit on top of it. Girl, what you about to do? What the fuck is she doing now? What is that for? Oh my God, y'all got to be fucking kidding me. You got to be kidding me. This doesn't make any sense. She didn't put on 3 layers of fucking foundation. Then she gonna put some white powder underneath her eyes. Girl, you better not pull nothing out to put else on your damn underneath your eyes. What the fuck you about to do now, girl? This don't make no sense. What the hell she about to do? Y'all, I swear, I would not be able to do this. Are you just gonna leave that on your face? Does it melt in there or something? Oh, she blended the powder in underneath her eyes. She went from a dark-skinned girl to a caramel tan girl. These is people that don't like their dark skin. She just changed her whole complexion. She about to put some more shit on there? Oh my God, Tia, why? It ain't even that serious though. She put like 5 layers of shit on her face. Ain't nobody, listen, y'all know my skin won't even be, I won't be able to do this. I'm telling you, my skin will be so damn bumpy. God damn. Mm-mm. No. Do the men have to do this too to go just to be on TV? Because I see somebody saying she's going on TV. What you expect? Hell, not this. Does this come a part of the damn paycheck? She licked her finger to add something else to her nose. What does that make her? That make your nose look smaller? Like, what the hell is she doing? Damn. I bet you her countertop in the sink area just be dirty as hell. With all that shit all over it every day. Got powder, marks, brown marks all over the place. She about to put something else on there? Oh, she about to put on lashes, y'all. I guess. Oh, wait a minute. What is that? Is that lashes or did she put on something blue? Blue eyeshadow? Oh, she putting on the lash. She said because her lashes was falling off in the Holly video update. Thank you, big sis, for the super chat. She said, "More, you are funny as hell." Girl, I'm for real. Do y'all think this makeup make her look better? I don't think that she's an unattractive girl without it. This better come with the package, honey. They better give me free makeup, free classes. Hell, make my face up for me. But I don't know. I would, my skin, I wouldn't be able to do this every day. I'd be like, get this shit off my face. She said it enhances her beauty. You think it enhances her? I actually thought that she looked good without it. She's not an unattractive woman. I just think it's too much. It's just too much. And now that I've seen what she's put on there, she's put layers on top of layers on top of layers. That lady probably got about 6 layers of shit on her face right now. 6 different products, if not more. Do you guys do this? How many of you guys put on 6 layers of makeup? Some people wear makeup just to enhance their beauty. So do you do this, Penny? Do you put on 6 layers of makeup? She said it enhances her beauty. She looks cute without the makeup, but the makeup made her look better in my eyes. I mean, her face do look slimmer. Her face looks slimmer with the makeup. She definitely made it look slimmer. I don't know, some magic slim my face shit. Wait a minute, she about to put some more shit on? Girl, say it ain't so. Oh, no, she's not. Those were her earrings. It is an enhancer. I wear it when I'm going somewhere. That's it. She said, no, because I don't need extra pounds. If she's going on TV, I guess she needs it. Notice she never gave an update. She did give an update, but she gave an update on some Uber case that she's talking about. It wasn't an update on the Holly case. It was an update on some, I guess she's covering some Uber, she's covering some Uber show. Something about some Uber case. But anyway, y'all, child. But y'all, this is crazy. So I did a, I guess this is a part 2 to the video. Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, no, it's not. I don't know what that is. Well, let me see what she looked like on camera. Do she look different?
Very unbelievable story, Dawn. The driver's name.
Oh, she was giving an update on this. So this is the story that she was giving an update
Ms.
on.
Rosa, she Ubers to make money. Her account was blocked. What started as a simple quick drop-off turned into a hospital visit and serious questions about her safety.
I'm like, I think I have drugs in the backseat of my car, and I'm doing what's in there.
Appeal, but I'm gonna give you at least something so you can provide it to the Uber driver, to the Uber app, so they don't blame you for.
So that's the video that Rosa captured after realizing the package in her backseat wasn't just a pair of gym shoes. She's a veteran rideshare driver with close to 5,000 rides under her seatbelt. As a courier delivery driver, she picks up and drops off packages. It started as a routine pickup. This was on April 16th on the Northwest side, right at Mulligan and Diversey. It was a...
So wait a minute. As an Uber, they can have an Uber driver come pick up a package and deliver it to someone else. So someone had her deliver drugs, weed, pills, and other narcotics. Well, we know who that probably was. Hey, listen, we know who that probably was. But anyway, so someone wanted this lady to hold on, y'all. It looks like someone wanted this lady to deliver some drugs. Chicago Uber driver says routine delivery turned into drug discovery. Then her account got blocked. Oh, wow. Hold on. A veteran rideshare driver unknowingly transported a package later found to contain suspected drugs, promoting a police investigation after she noticed a strong odor and suspicious delivery changes mid-trip. She contacted the police afterwards. Uber in-app safety features failed to respond. Officers recovered the package and no injuries were reported. Despite cooperating fully, the driver's Uber account was suspended and is under investigation, leaving her without income as she seeks answers from the company. So she started off delivering, I guess, a package, and it ended up being drugs. And so she called the police, and the Uber company restricted her account. That's what it sounded like. So now she can't make no money. Hold on, let me do it the other way.
Warm day. She had the window down. She let them up to take a phone call, and that's when she says she was smacked right in the face by a really strong odor. Rosa says her car filled with the smell of weed. She says what was even really scarier about this, the sender began redirecting the delivery, changing the drop-off mid-route while tracking her right through the app. Rosa says she tried to use Uber's safety feature. Nothing happened. So she called police, and despite reporting it, her nearly perfect 4.9 rated account was blocked, and she says she's now under investigation by Uber.
It's not my drugs. I'm doing the community a favor, delivering stuff, whatnot. And for me to go ahead and be blocked and being under investigation, it just doesn't go well with me at all. And the fact that they're not telling me why is my account blocked makes no sense. I just feel like it wasn't right. They should have went ahead and listened to me. They have the recordings. I have the police report. I have everything that they wanted, and yet they have not reached out to me.
So it took us getting involved, right? This happened on April 16th. Today is the 22nd, and we just heard back from Uber. They tell us that they are alarmed by this report, and any use of the Uber platform for illegal activity is strictly prohibited, and the rider has been banned from the platform. They also say that they will help police however they can in the investigation process. And so I did reach out to Uber right after this and Rosa to see, is her account indeed restored? Can she start delivering all over again? She told me that her Uber account is now restored, and she thanked us for stepping in to assist her with that. Tia Ewing, Fox Chicago.
Okay, so now she can start back Ubering. But anyway, I guess that's supposed to be the update that Tia was giving out. Okay, so the Uber driver was able to get her account back in good use after she took it to the news. She did the right thing to take it to the news. Yeah, sometimes you do got to get the news involved. You do sometimes. So anyway, but I was looking to see that Tia look any different. And hell, I can't tell, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know, y'all. But anyway, so that's all I wanted to come tell y'all. That let me look at it's 412. So let me look at the thing again. Let me hit refresh to see if there's any updates. Y'all know this is what we be doing. We be acting like we on crack looking at the updates on this site. But since Tia gave out the information, it's just been doing this. It takes a long time to update here lately, because everybody know the site information now. Nope, it hasn't updated, you guys. There has not been an update on the record as of now. Okay, there has not been an update on the record as of now. All right. So anyway, I guess that's gonna leave us. Who's following? Raise your hand if you are following the D4VD case. Anybody following that? I don't hear you guys speak on it much, but are y'all following that? Let me know. It's getting wild. Let me know if y'all are following that case. Oh, a few of y'all are following it. She said, I'm trying to follow when I can. Okay. I heard a blogger say that to go into very, like explicit details about the case and show different videos or whatever, that he's been getting flagged. I don't know why, but I mean, I think because of the gruesomeness of it. But she said he should have been arrested. Did y'all? Well, if he did it though, they do say they have evidence of them having some type of relationship, like an involvement. But right now, as far as the evidence for murder, they don't have direct evidence. However, I mean, the case is wild. She said, I see articles, but not following. The case is wild. I mean, wild. She said, did the court transcripts ever come out of the... oh, you know what? I ain't looked in so long. Let me see. Let me see right quick. Let me see. Oh, shit. I ain't looked at this in a while. Mm. Hold on. It's still doing a round around thing. She said, I watch every now and then. I heard he told everything. You heard who told everything? He did or his friend? All right, hold on. Nope, it's not updated. Nope, it's not updated, you guys. That's crazy. It still say open and pending. Nope, it's not updated yet, you guys. It is not updated. So, Tasha, you said you heard he told everything. Who? The David guy? You heard he told everything? She said he's a whole predator. Yeah, I heard he had. Girl, it's crazy. Oof. Child photos and videos in his phone. The dude is kind of on the quirky side. He kind of on the quirky side. I'm talking about straight up ass quirky. She said she had to go to the person, actually pick it up, and the packages are always sealed. She was telling the truth. Oh, you talking about the Uber girl, the Uber lady? Oh, you saying that he did? Where did you hear that at? Let me see. Guess he said you ain't gonna get my ass in trouble. Hold on. Anyway, I just seen someone posted how bad he did her. Oh, you mean as far as cutting her up? Cutting her, stabbing her? Oh, you said she's not telling the truth. I think she opened the package after she smelled something, though. That's what it sounded like they were saying. She did open up the packages after she smelled the weed. Either she opened up the package or she called the police and they opened up the package. I don't know. But I ain't really studying that case. But anyway, we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit about David, y'all. We're going to talk a little bit about David because the case is wild. And believe it or not, even though they're charging him with all these charges, I think the murder one, not saying that he didn't do it, but I just think it's going to be hard for them to prove. However, this is the state of California. I'm supposed to be finding out the California laws and the rules. But I don't know, y'all. It is a high profile case. If y'all want to cover it, we can. I think it's going to be a long, drawn out case, though. But if y'all want to cover it, we absolutely can. It's a lot to it, though. It is a lot. She said, I heard it when you last reported it, but I wanted an update. Girl, it's so much. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that. As far as the Carmelo Anthony case, Y'all, I don't know. I have to fill out what you call a, what is it called? A media intake form to find out if they're going to allow me to be in the courtroom, because they are only allowing limited people to be there. So I got to get permission to be in court for the Carmelo Anthony case. So I'm going to fill out the form, and I don't know, even though I said this would be my first case, I did not know they was going to put so much restrictions on it. So I have to find out if they're going to even allow me to be in there, okay? They may not. I may not be able to go, but before I pay for this Airbnb, I want them to tell me if I'm going to be allowed to go in there, because I'm not going to go there and just wait outside the courtroom, right? So I got to find out if I'm allowed to be in there or not. They're making everybody fill out a form. So if you plan on just walking up in the courtroom, it's not going to happen. They're going to have limited seating. They're going to have, so far, no news media with cameras or whatever in there, but they are going to allow limited seating. So I don't know if they will allow somebody like me to come in. So I'll just have to see. I really want to be there, especially being only 4 hours from here. She said they allowed bloggers in Diddy's trial. Yeah, but that trial wasn't on lock. This trial, the judge has shut it down from sharing information because they said it's a high-profile racial case. They didn't turn it into a black versus white thing. A black boy killed white boy. So it has a lot of racial tension to it. So with that said, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm going to wait until they tell me whether or not I can enter. But I need them to tell me something fast. But anyway, y'all, I'm going to hop off. And I'll come back on later, you guys. I'm going to hop off, come back on later. But we don't have an update as of yet for the... We don't have an update as of yet for the, whether or not they're going to, say that she has to stay or not. So we just have to see. But as soon as I find out, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to tell y'all, all right? But we just going to stand fast, okay? All right, you guys. Thank y'all so very much for pointing to this live stream. Thank you, 200K, for the love. Appreciate you. Thank you, Grateful. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Grateful for the love. Thank you. I am my sister's keeper. Thank you, Kissy. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Kissy, again. Thank you, Big Sis Glenn. Thank you, Jen Hen. Thank you, Big Sis Glenn, again. And thank you, Big Sis Glenn, again. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the views. Appreciate the thumbs up. And I will talk to y'all later. Love y'all. Bye.
Because they can't make $1 without mentioning down one of our names.
Jay! She kept talking about that family.
Hoes over there.
She kept talking about that family. She kept talking about that family. She kept talking about that family.